The art market's opacity and uncertainty rears its head in Reiner Knizia's board game Modern Art. On one hand, you have a hand of cards representing paintings you're looking to sell. That information is known only to you. On the other hand, the unknowns take the form of what your opponents have and the paintings that have yet to be dealt. Together, it makes for a mesmerizing mystery where mastery means meticulously manipulating markets. The game plays like a stock market if companies were artists and shares were paintings. To win, you need to make the most money, and to make money, the stock market adage of buying low and selling high holds true. Easy in theory, but difficult in practice when everyone is trying to do the same thing. So how do you win at Modern Art? Well, here's what you gotta know. First, you need an understanding of where the money comes from. Money comes to you in one of two ways. The first way is from purchasing pretty paintings and redeeming them for profit. The second way is from selling paintings. The question then becomes how to maximize your take from each of those activities. To do that, we turn to basic accounting, using the concept of cost, revenue, and overall profit in our analysis. Or as I call it, modern art mathematical mastery. So let's start with you as a buyer in a 3-player example, where you, Alpha, and Beatrice each start out with $100. Alpha puts up a painting by Sigrid Thaler that will go through an open auction. The bids fly fast and furious, but in the end, you've beaten out everyone else and you buy the painting for $12. Now what happens to each player, and how does each player evaluate their position? For Alpha, that's easy. She adds that $12 that you spent to her bankroll. Everything the seller makes from selling the painting is pure profit, so she makes a profit of $12, increasing her bank balance to $112. For you, it's murkier, depending on how the art markets pan out. If the painting goes for $30 at the end of the round, you'll make a profit of $18. That's 30 minus 12 to get 18. That means you'll have $118, putting you in first place. That's a pretty awesome result from the auction. If the painting goes for $20, you'll still make a profit. It won't be as high as before, but it's not too bad. You'll make a profit of $8. That's 20 minus 12 to get 8. That gives you a total of 108, leaving you in second place. But if the painting goes for $10, you don't make any profit at all. In fact, you've lost money on the deal. That's 10 minus 12, losing you $2. And that leaves you with $98, leaving you in third place behind Beatrice, who did absolutely nothing and still has $100. And as you might expect, it's even worse if the painting winds up being worthless. From this example, buyer and seller have to figure out what price to sell the painting by forecasting how much the painting will be worth at the end of the round. When you're the seller, you want to keep a figure in your mind of how much to let a painting go for. The price you sell will be different if you think a painting is worth $30 versus if a painting will be worth $10. And that would be because the buyer and seller split the painting's final value. So what does an even split look like? Well, that's easy. Take the painting's final valuation and divide it by 2, and that value will be the even split between the two players. If you buy a painting from Alpha for $10 and its value at the end of the round is $20, both you and Alpha will wind up having $110. Any selling price beyond $10 benefits the seller, Alpha, say $112 versus your $108. And any selling price below $10 benefits you, the buyer, say Alpha's $105 versus your $115. But no price is a guarantee, and that's where Modern Art's challenge comes in. figuring out what the probable value of that painting will be at the end of the round. Because the painting could be worth $10, but with some conspiring, could easily be worth $30. Or someone thinks a painting would be worth $20, only for it to be worth completely nothing. And if that wasn't hard enough, the concept of the even split tells an incomplete story, because it only looks at a painting auction in isolation and not the entirety of the system where many paintings are sold. Sometimes it behooves buyers to give sellers a slightly better deal on a painting's revenue split, say paying $12 for a $20 painting, but making up for that higher cost in volume. For example, let's say Alpha decides to auction off a painting, and let's say you bought that painting and you're absolutely sure that it'll be worth $20, but you decide to pay $12 for it. The quick math means Alpha is at 112, and you get 108. Good, but not first place material. But now it's Beatrice's turn, and she puts up a painting that you know for sure will be worth $30. And let's say you wanted to buy it, and you decide to give Beatrice a slightly better deal. So instead of giving her that 50-50 split by paying $15 for it, you decide to give her $18. That means you'll earn net $12 from the profit, putting you from 108 to 120. With the math now, Beatrice has a total of 118, and Alpha still has her 112. So despite giving the sellers a greater share of the profit for each painting, you're still ahead in overall profit, putting you in the lead. So yes, there is a lot to modern art. There's a ton of wrenches you can throw into the system, and a lot of manipulating that you can do. Do those well, and you'll be in a very good spot to win. The logical next question is what levers you have at your disposal to clear up the uncertainty and tilt the field in your favor. Well, here's some 3 tips that I think are worth using. Tip number 1. Using your hand to understand your market positioning and market power. Discerning pricing can be difficult because of all the unknown information out there. Thankfully, you have one source of information you can rely upon, your hand. Look at your hand and use that as a guidepost for how hard you can bid on a painting during any given auction. And also use that to see when others might be undervaluing a painting. Let's say someone just put out a painting by Ramon Martins for auction. Look at your hand. Do you have 3 other Ramon Martins paintings in your hand? If so, maybe you can push the value of those paintings up to $20 by the end of the round by auctioning off some of your own. But if you don't have any, maybe hold back a bit until you can make a better guess as to whether any given artist's paintings will rank and score before you decide to bid. And if the response to an auction is tepid, but you can push the value of that painting up through your hand, you might want to feign uninterest when bidding to get that painting on the cheap. What it comes down to is the more certain you are of a painting's value, the more you'll be able to devise an optimal bid according to the modern art mathematical mastery technique I highlighted earlier. Tip number 2. See what paintings other people are bidding on and ultimately buying. I just talked to you about using your hand as information to help guide you on how hard to bid. If your opponents are smart, they'll do the exact same thing. In light of that, pay attention to what paintings other players are bidding on and how much. You can use that information to figure out what paintings your opponents might have in their hands and how they might be valuing a given artist. So how would you take advantage of this situation? It primarily helps you decide which paintings you should be putting up for auction. If a painting from an earlier auction provoked a furious bidding war, that's an opportunity for you to capture value from a painting in your hand. If 2 artists are neck and neck in ranking for value, maybe now's the time you support one artist over the other, so that way you can figure out which one gets you the most value based on other people's bidding behavior. This is even more relevant if you put those double painting auctions into the mix. Timed well, you can bring about chaos and capture more value from an auction than you otherwise would. And tip number 3, develop informal alliances. 2 heads are better than 1, and that adage holds true in modern art where 2 heads can better manipulate the market than 1. The idea behind forming an alliance is simple. With all the market manipulation that goes on in a game of modern art, you want someone on your team who has an interest in manipulating the value of the paintings from that same painter you want to manipulate. So let's say you own a painting by Manuel Carvalho, and Alpha does as well. Both of you now have an incentive to make sure that Manuel Carvalho ranks reasonably high to maximize your profits. In this arrangement, it'd be best if you allied with Alpha to auction off more Manuel Carvalhos and ensure its high ranking. To make an alliance work, you may want to auction off a painting for very cheap. Maybe you auction off a painting you think will be worth $20 for $8 so that someone else is more willing to buy it. Because once that other player does, they now have a vested interest in making sure that painter ranks, giving you an ally you can somewhat rely upon to help get you rich. Nothing is worse than being the only person owning a certain painter's paintings because no one else will really want to help you out. It's really hard to rank an artist without help, but get someone else to put skin in the game, and you can steer the art markets in your favor. Hopefully, the overall strategies and tips I presented here will help you do better at modern art. If you have any other suggestions, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.